This is the OMM Podcast, featuring mobility managers from around the state of Ohio talking about topics like public transportation, walking and biking, active transportation planning, travel training, mobility committee work, grant writing, and more. Another Ohio Mobility Manager podcast starts now. Here's your host, Tim Maseko.
Well, this week we have Michelle Caserta-Bixler with us on the OMM Podcast. Welcome back to the show again, Michelle.
Thank you very much, Tim. Glad to be back.
Yeah, you were on the show previously talking about how you're able to team up with another mobility manager and someone down in the Office of Transit at ODOT, and you managed to get a client back home in another part of the state. And that situation involved crossing county lines, which we all know can be difficult. And just such a great example of the value of mobility management. And people can hear that story on episode number 5 of the OMM Podcast if you're interested in hearing that. But today, we want to talk more about you and what else you do in the area that you cover, Michelle. So first and foremost, we probably should make everyone aware of what counties you actually operate in.
Okay, I actually cover 4 counties. I cover Champaign, Clark, Darke, and Shelby counties.
And do you find it difficult to cover that big of an area, or do you have a pretty good grasp on how that needs to look and how you operate?
Well, some days it can be challenging to give your full attention where needed. I recently, within the past year, hired a community liaison to help me out in 2 of those counties, so I wasn't spread so thin. As we know, transportation is a huge challenge, especially in the rural counties. So, I guess we felt it was best if we had someone to help me, I guess I should say, cover those counties so we can give it some more attention.
Yeah, it makes total sense. You get to be that broad. You have to have a little extra help if you're going to do all the things you probably want to do. We will come back to the specifics of that here in a little bit, but let's change course for a few minutes. Let's get to know you personally. Now, I assume you live in at least one of the counties that you cover.
Actually, I don't.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I live in Montgomery County, and Montgomery County actually is centrally located for all 4 of my counties. So it actually just kind of worked out that way. I moved to Montgomery County, probably about 5 years ago.
All right.
So, and as my job expanded, it actually works out quite well. I'm equally centralized for any county I need to go to.
Well, that actually works out well then. I mean, so you must like the area you do live in then.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a smaller community at Inglewood, which is part of Montgomery County, part of the Dayton area. But it's a smaller community, somewhat like what I grew up in the Miami County area. So I actually love it here, and it's working out well.
Well, good. Now, prior to your current position as a mobility manager, what other jobs or jobs did you have, or anything you think we'd find interesting?
Well, I tell you, probably the most interesting job that I have done would be my dad and I had our own business for a while, and we manufactured and sold funeral coaches. Hearses,
Whoa.
as most people know them. That's probably the most unique job I've had, other than the nonprofit human services jobs I held prior. But that's probably the most unique job I've held.
Wow, yeah, that's interesting. But it's something that has to be done, right?
Hey, there's always need. As my father used to say, people are dying to get in. So yes, there's a need.
Yeah, unfortunately, but that is the circle of life. Now, do you have any hobbies or things you enjoy doing outside of work?
I have 5 grandchildren. I love to try and find time to spend with them. We don't live as close as I would like, so it's a little more challenging. I like to exercise, try and stay in shape, and be outdoors as much as possible. We're in the process of making home improvements, as everyone does. So being outside in the yard, working inside the house. So just trying to stay busy.
Yeah, sure. That keeps you going, right?
Yes.
Now, Macy had shared a few episodes ago about how she has a little unique hobby where she likes to draw and paint or something like that. So anything unique like that, like you got a special skill set like sign language or anything
I used to collect sports memorabilia at one point, but I kind of got away from that. So unfortunately, I don't have. I guess if you want to call working on puzzles a hobby, I enjoy doing that. That keeps me busy. So especially during the winter time.
Well, putting puzzles together is kind of what a mobility manager does, isn't it?
It kind of is. You have to find out what piece goes where and how it all fits together to make it a cohesive picture. That's for sure.
Yeah, so that's a perfect segue. Let's move into talking about your role as a mobility manager. Now, how long have you been the mobility manager there in your area, and what type of things do you do on an everyday basis, or even a weekly, or just on a normal basis?
Well, I've been a mobility manager for 5 years. Catholic Social Services started the program in 2016 when they hired me on. I've been blessed to be able to grow this program from the ground up. It was brand new when I started, so it's been very rewarding to see it grow. I started out with 3 counties and now have moved into 4 counties. On a daily basis, it's making the contacts with the individuals out in the community, whether they are stakeholders such as nonprofit, for-profit organizations out there, trying to find what the unmet needs are in each community, and then coming up with solutions on how we can close those gaps of those unmet needs. Every day I'm on the phone with individuals. Used to be out and about a lot more than what I am now. I think that's one of the things I miss the most during this time is not being able to see more people face to face. I think that's a huge part of mobility management is being out in the public and talking to individuals and, seeing what we can do to solve the challenges of transportation.
Yeah, I would agree. It's been tough with the pandemic and not being out there face to face, even for meetings or just getting to know people. And I was doing some walk audits in Marion County myself, so it's tough not getting out there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that's what I love most about my job is meeting the people. And when you can't do it in person, it's very challenging.
Yeah. Now you mentioned the job being rewarding. So, what are some of the things you find to be the most rewarding when it comes to mobility management? What are the things that really stick out to you? Say, "Wow, this is why I do this."
I guess the obvious is finding those solutions. Sometimes they're not readily available, especially in rural counties. So when you get that opportunity to connect that person or make a difference in that person's life, that's why we do what we do as mobility managers. It's not to be out in the spotlight. A lot of people don't know what we do. They don't
Mhm.
realize that. So it's just getting that phone call and knowing that you've made that connection, such as the cross-county coordination that you spoke of at the beginning. I mean, those are the things that I love to do on a day-to-day basis and wish I could do more of. That's why we have mobility managers, is to be able to make those things happen more on a daily basis. So it's not out of the norm to happen. It's more out of the norm not to happen.
Now, no job is without its drawbacks, of course. So tell us, what have you found to be rather difficult regarding mobility management?
Well, I think the most difficult is the lack of resources in the rural counties. And what I mean by resources is transportation providers, that the larger areas have the money, the funds to provide those transportation or to provide transportation to those individuals. And getting people to, and I guess what I mean by people is sometimes the powers that be, the higher up in the organizations, sometimes they don't quite see the picture that the individuals that are on the ground level, seeing the struggles every day, sometimes they just don't see that need. And it's very frustrating trying to get them to understand what providers are going through day to day, trying to get their clients or individuals to jobs or to medical appointments. So that can be very, very challenging and discouraging some days.
Yeah, I would agree. I think we all have those problems. Now let's be positive, though. How about a few success stories? At least a success story. I'm sure you have more than a few. So can you share this one or two beyond the one I mentioned to open the show?
One that really sticks out to me is a caregiver that called me from Texas. His mother lived in, actually, she didn't even live in a county that I served as mobility manager, but I was able to connect her to resources to help get her to her appointments. that she needed to get to. The son was at his wit's end. Caregiving is challenging when you live in the same state, when you live in the same county, when you live in the same city. Imagine being a caregiver thousands of miles away and trying to make sure his elderly mother gets to the appointment she needs to get to. But I was able to connect her with the resources in the county that she lived in. And the son was more than grateful. I was able to hook him up working at Catholic Social Services. It's more than just mobility management. We have other services for seniors and individuals with disabilities. So I was able to connect them not only with transportation, but other options for his mother as she continues to need more assistance.
No, that's great. That's great. Now, what is your relationship like, Michelle, regarding the public transit systems in your area? I mean, you have a lot of different counties, so do you have a good relationship with each one of them?
Oh, absolutely. At least I think I do. Hopefully, I'm not mistaken.
Sure.
But yes, I think I do. They are very open to mobility management, which I'm very grateful for. And I think over the years, we have learned to work well together, to complement each other, to supplement what each of us do. And, they know that the bottom line for me is to help assist them because, they want to make sure everyone's served in their counties. And that's my objective also. So, having that same common goal, it makes it so much easier to work together as a team.
Sure. And beyond the public transit piece, who else do you tend to work with on a semi-regular basis? Any other agencies that kind of stick out?
I work with the EMA. I work with the county health departments, with the economical development associations in each county. I work for a lot of nonprofit organizations, United Ways, obviously senior centers, senior apartment complexes, and also the DD population.
Yeah, quite a list there. Quite a few different things there. That's really interesting. I think every mobility manager works with some of those, maybe all of those, or maybe other ones or different ones. But it's just neat to hear who different mobility managers work with because it's always intriguing, if you will. Now let's highlight the things that you're doing in your area. So this is your opportunity now for the next couple minutes or however long you need to share the important things you want people out there to know about what you're doing, what you're offering, and anything else you want to talk about.
The biggest thing that we are trying to do in the areas that I serve is we are part of a larger region. It's called Region 2, and we have put together a regional coordination plan. It actually went into effect for 2021. And what that basically means is all of our counties are trying to work together to solve transportation solutions as a region, knowing that it's not just in the counties that each of us serve, but it's across county lines. And it's important that we all come together in our region to see how we can pull our resources together to get somebody from Shelby County to Champaign County or Champaign County to Clark County. That's on the forefront for regional coordination. And it's a huge emphasis that is being placed on us as mobility managers, which I think could only lead to greater success.
Yeah, I would agree. Now, if I'm a client out or a potential client, or I'm just a resident, and I'm listening to you talk and I'm saying, well, why would I need to contact Michelle? What's the reason for me to reach out to you? What are some of the examples maybe you could give of why I would need or would want to call you versus making 10 other phone calls?
Well, at Catholic Social Services, part of the mobility management program, we have a call-in resource center called Ride Link. That is a one call, similar to the 211, where individuals can call in and we can give them transportation resources in the areas that they live. Not necessarily just the areas that we have mobility management in, but in the areas that we serve. We try to make sure that we cover any county around. Obviously, if there's other mobility managers in the counties that they call, we refer them back to their local mobility management for resources. By calling me as mobility manager, I can not only link them up to transportation in their areas, but, any other resources that they might need. Maybe they need a ride to a food pantry. Well, I can give them resources to get them to the food pantry, but maybe I can also give them resources of how maybe we can help with home delivered meals if they qualify for a program. So, by calling me, it saves them 5 other phone calls.